Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. And we've been going live on weekdays to talk about things that families need to know to navigate education during the pandemic. So we've had things like at-home learning activities and things about staying safe as schools reopen, and we're getting into enrollment season. And so lately we've had school leaders, and I'm so very grateful that we have Ellen Smith, who's the regional superintendent of KIPP Texas, San Antonio. And Ellen, let's see, you came to San Antonio in 2019, right?
Yes, 2019.
Okay, and then before that, you were in Colorado, right? But you've also worked in Oakland, and I know you studied at Harvard, and you just have an amazing resume of, urban education experience that you bring with you to, coming to KIPP Texas.
Yeah. It's been a long journey. I started in charter schools first. I started at charter school out of Providence, Rhode Island, associated with Brown, and it was really an awesome opportunity. Then went into Denver Public Schools, and then did a lot of turnaround work there. And then, left and went to Charlotte, became the assistant superintendent there for one of the largest school districts in the country, and followed a path there to Oakland, where I was the deputy superintendent, chief of schools, and then returned back to Denver, where I was the senior deputy. So I was the second in charge of that school district. And now I'm here in beautiful San Antonio, Texas, which I fully expect to make my landing for a while.
That's good. And I remember, and you had okay, you mentioned when we talked before that you were in the Broad Fellowship Program, and some education leaders in Texas through that, right? So I think you mentioned, so we had Joanne Gama from IDEA as a guest last month, and right, she was in your cohort, and then I think you also knew Pedro Martinez through the Broad program, right?
Pedro's also in Broad. I'm also in another cohort called Chiefs for Change, and there's 44 leaders. I went through their Fellow Chiefs program, and so got a chance to meet Pedro then and hearing them, and also through Broad. And then there's about 4 or 5 people that I know that live in Texas that are in the Broad Superintendent's Academy.
Yeah. So education is a small world, but as you pointed out, there's elements of teamwork between the traditional public schools and the charter schools, right? And the Broad Fellowship and the Teach for Change, it supports that sharing and that learning between, traditional public schools, charter schools, how they can share innovation. And KIPP has really been a good partner, right, to SAISD in terms of sharing things like the college advising. And so I know I'm getting off script here, but
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's important because when you look at education, whether you like it or not, adults are the ones that make really these distinctions. The truth of the matter is that families, when they look at schools, want to send their student to a place that's going to provide them a solid education that's going to prepare them for the future, regardless of whether it's associated with an ISD, or if it's associated with a charter, or if it's associated with something else. The real thing as a parent is, can I send my child to a school, know that they're going to be safe, and get a quality education that's going to prepare them for what's next in life?
Yeah. And speaking of family, so you have 2 daughters. Is it 2 daughters? And they're grown now, right? They're one's in college. 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 daughters and a son that we adopted who is 30. He is back in Denver, doing quite well. And 2 of my oldest daughters, so my oldest is 24, my middle is 19. One's in grad school. The 24-year-old's in grad school in North Carolina. The 19-year-old is in cosmetology school. And then I have a 17-year-old here with us in San Antonio who goes to an online charter school.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, you come at this as a dad. I know that was part of what we talked about like, I think as a parent, like you really care about like what's true learning and what's going to get, set your kids up for the future, and that it's not necessarily going to follow a script or some kind of pattern that
right.
you recommend. Right?
Yeah, no, it really doesn't follow a script. I mean, I know we think a lot as adults of our plans for our children and what we want them to do and be, and really what I came to understand that as a parent, as an educator, If I really want any kid to be able to contend with the gatekeepers of social mobility, then I had to give them access to the most rigorous learning, hold them to the high expectations that are needed to really build those foundations and truly teach them how to learn, right? And if you're able to do that, then I think that you open the door for so many more opportunities for people, and they can go out and explore. But when you limit that, then you see where students in certain populations of students start getting pigeonholed, and really sky is not the limit for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that opens up a good segue to talking about like KIPP Texas, and like KIPP in general, right? The KIPP Texas region, the San Antonio region, and like what type of students KIPP sets out to serve, right? Which it's all students, but it's especially trying to lift up the students who've been not well served historically, right? Because of discrimination or systemic racism, or whatever's been working against them, right? So if you could talk more about so like what is the KIPP mission, and how this region seeks to serve that?
Yeah, I mean, our mission is really to give students a world-class education, and be able to provide them a future that can take them anywhere. And historically, KIPP was started in Houston, and it was really started in middle school in a level that was really underserved. Middle school is a very hard grade band for our students, especially those students that come from marginalized backgrounds. And they started doing that very well, then expanded it, to high schools and eventually elementary schools. And it continued to serve, a lot of students of color, a lot of students that come from marginalized backgrounds, whether it be socially and economically, or whether it be some other inequitable way that we see in our education system, and open the doors to them and really said, regardless of things that we cannot control, which may be where you live or your background, what we can control is that you're going to get an awesome education while you're here, and we're going to support you past you walking out those doors and past the graduation stage, to really being able to support you while you're going to college, whatever that looks like for you. And so in San Antonio, very much believe in that mission, that we are bringing in students, and regardless of their income or their ethnicity or anything else, we want to create a place of belonging for them that truly can hook them up with their interests and passions in education, teach them how to learn, and then be able to set them up for success. And so we've been able to attract, our student body is currently 95% of free and reduced lunch, 95% students of color. But I believe, and fundamentally believe, that I'm an educator of any and all students, and welcome any and all students to KIPP, because I know that the education that they will get is going to be second to none.
Yeah. There are like ideas popping out of my head based on what you just said, and one of which is the KIPP through college. I want to follow up with that. Another part is, to talk about the ways that KIPP makes sure that to close those gaps, right? So like the one-to-one technology and transportation and meals and stuff like that. But before we get to those, I really want to talk to you about as we talked before this call about like how to treat people, right? And like how to treat people with respect and decency. And I think that there's some myths about schools like KIPP about that it's not treating students with like cultural relevance, or like it's pushing students into a mold that's not a cultural fit for them, or that's trying to make them something they're not. And I think that's a myth that we need to address, because the folks I've talked to, like you and the teachers at KIPP and the students at KIPP that I've talked to, talk over and over about like how culturally responsive it is. Things like, students take Mexican American studies classes, but it's deeper than that. It's like, it's about how people are treated, right? And like KIPP just won a ranking on like one of the top 10 mid-sized employers in San Antonio, right? So and there's very high retention, very high satisfaction among the
Sure.
teachers, right? Which is extraordinary during COVID time. So that's before we talk about like the technology or the KIPP through college, the counseling, which are wonderful things, but talk about like treating people with respect and how KIPP makes teachers and students feel while they're part of the team.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing this up because I think it is something that has to be addressed. How KIPP came into was very more, over 25 years ago, was very more, much more of the thought where things had to be very rote and very rigid and stringent for students. But as things evolve throughout the time, hopefully you learn how to get better, and that you don't stay stagnant in things that are not actually working, but you actually look at new things that are going to be more beneficial for the people that you're serving. And I certainly wouldn't have joined KIPP if I didn't think that they were going to treat students with dignity and respect, honor their culture, and then allow them to belong and be themselves. And that's something that is very important to me. And so, I come in and I approach education, which I would hope that more people would see what education really is. This is a people business. We are not creating widgets. We are not creating robots. We are working to transform the very lives of individuals. And in order to do that, we actually have to see their faces. We have to see their eyes, and we have to understand that they have their set of experiences, values that they all bring to the table. And if they have to put those in their pocket and conform to something different when they come to a place where they're going to be spending most of their time, that they're not really going to be or know who they really are. And the only way that you can find out what career you want to be and who you want to grow up to be in life is if you know who you are. You know the things that drive you as a person. You know what your purpose is. And so it's important to me that we actually talk to our students and actually listen to our students about who they are as people, because we can learn a lot from them. And once we get past that, and once we develop that relationship and that rapport with our students and our families, then there is nothing that we wouldn't do for each other. And that's what we're seeing at KIPP now, that and where I think that some of those things have happened, where the culture, like you said, we're one of the top places to work and we've had the highest retention. It's because people can come and be themselves. You don't have to check in who you are at the door, right? We're not gonna, you're not gonna be ostracized for something that you believe. That's not what this is about. This is about a journey that we're on that shouldn't be about blame, shame, or judgment. And if we can understand that in education, then a lot more students, especially those who are most marginalized, are going to see this as a true gateway for their successful future, and not something that is holding them back where they can't learn how to be themselves.
Them being in touch with who they are and connecting that with, and actually that's a really good segue to like the KIPP through college. So I should mention in the description of the video, there's a link to the blog post that we've updated. So it's our enrollment guide blog post for about KIPP Texas San Antonio, and it's on the San Antonio Charter Moms website. And so in that, there's kind of an article on the 74 million successful KIPP students are even completing their 4-year degrees, which really goes against the what's typically expected from students from marginalized backgrounds. So like operationally, how does that work? Like what kind of support does KIPP through college give them, before they graduate, and then once they are enrolled in college, like what kind of help do they need?
Yeah, and thank you for asking this question, Inga. It to me is truly the game changer as we think about the leap from pre-K 12 education to higher ed. And truly, having the support that you need to not only be able to navigate what kind of, higher ed opportunity you want to seek, but truly how to take the steps to get there and then be successful is something that you don't often see. You often see counselors in pre-K 12 help students understand that there's college out there, and this may be how you do it and how you apply, but they don't walk with you lockstep to show you this is how you need to write your essay. these are the things that you might include. This is how we're going to look at FAFSA. This is how we're going to look at how student living is. These are other students that come from similar backgrounds like you that are on the campus, so there are opportunities that you can get into. This is what your schedule could look like and how you can navigate, if you need to work while going to school. And they have counselors that call every single one of our students, starting freshman year. As soon as you, actually it starts in 8th grade. And then as soon as you get in high school, whether you stay with KIPP or not. Now this is the most remarkable thing, right? So you enter one of our schools and you become a KIPPster. And if for some reason you have to transfer, you move somewhere else, something in your life changes, the counselors still call you and they still walk you through this process and stay with you until you graduate, not only from high school, but through college. And that to me is an amazing feat, which is why kids are successful. These folks are working, day and night, and the kids love them. They take classes to understand this, and they go to them. They talk about their KIPP through college counselors, almost like they talk about their family members, because they have built this relationship with them where they know actually that they have somebody in their corner that is truly going to help them be successful in the path that they want to seek out. And it's not the counselors that are dictating to the students where they need to go, where they need to apply, how they need to do it. It truly is the students and the families working with these counselors to develop a roadmap or a plan, if you will, around what's going to work best for the students and families financially, how it's going to be feasible, and how they're going to be able to stick through it. And I think it's why, when we talk about our partners in San Antonio ISD, why they looked at this and said, we want to adopt this too, because it truly is a game changer. And so you probably hear the passion when I talk about this, because I just have never really seen something that this is this robust. That really gives these students a leg up to finish not only high school but college.
Yeah, it's I love what I do. I love this nonprofit. I love this blog, and I love being able to highlight things like this. And I want to help these good ideas spread. I think every school, every district should be studying what KIPP through college is doing and helping its students. And even schools that maybe serve a smaller proportion of the underprivileged students. They every student can benefit from this, right? And that's what you're saying is like KIPP is offering a great education to all children. And college is daunting, and there's just a lot to wrap your head around. And I had the benefit of having college educated parents who could try to help me navigate it, and it was still hard. There were still times when I felt discouraged. There were times when I felt like I was on the wrong path, and I can only imagine how hard that would be when there's like a little voice telling you inside your head that you don't belong, right? Or that you're stop fooling them. You're not, and you got to have somebody in your corner saying, I have faith in you. We'll get through this. We'll solve this problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, and it's helping students realize the bigger picture. A lot of first-time college goers come from KIPP, and when you think about parents that may need help financially and may need other support, and getting them seeing the long-term vision and how this not only is going to set up the family for success for long-term, but truly impact the community where they come from. And once we're able to establish that with parents and get over the fears of letting their students or babies go off and go to wherever they want to, then they really see the benefit. And the thing that we also do that I think is really important is we hire our alumni, once they finish college, to come back and work with our schools, whether it be teacher, whether it be some other roles or positions, because we want them to come back to their communities and give back, so it goes full circle. But it truly is something that I think we should be looking at in education. If we could actually get this right, especially now when you think about the pandemic and all the changing pieces that we have in our country, our world, it's a scary time for 18-year-old to be going off and thinking about, how am I going to do this on my own? Well, even through the pandemic, with our graduates from last year, our counselors have been working through them to get them over the hump and over the fears that they have of going to college during the pandemic, and why it still makes so much sense, right? And that is an important step that I don't think we should miss. And I really, truly appreciate this team for doing this. They've secured a lot of scholarship money for our students. Every student applies to a college. We have a cohort that is working with San Antonio, Texas A&M. And so where a lot of our students go, we have a fair amount of students going to top tier colleges as the Dukes and Stanfords and those. But truly, it is about what is right for the student. That's going to make most sense for them.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned, having like a partnership with the families so that they have that comfort level and they can see the vision. And that leads me to asking about I know I've been following like what KIPP has done to help families with the stress of the pandemic, and how KIPP has accelerated things like one-to-one technology, and making sure that students have tablets and laptops, things like having the drive-by meal pickup, things and the fact that, for years, KIPP has offered transportation to students for free, which most charter schools in San Antonio don't offer transportation. But from an equity standpoint, it's really a game changer. So if you could talk more about what are those extra things that KIPP does that take care of families, that help get families involved and connected with the school and help overcome those gaps, those barriers.
Yeah, and thank you again for that. I think you said something that has probably been thought of in education, that these are extras and they're niceties. Actually, not, right? They're necessity. There's actually what I believe a school system should be doing for students. Let's remove the barriers so that you are not focused on those things that could be holding you back, like transportation. How do I get to school if I really want to go to a good school, but my family's not eating? Right, and we need meals. So how do we provide those so that you and your family could be eating, and you're not thinking about that? And we don't have some of the technology that is going to allow me to experience some of these learnings that are important to me. How do we do that and eliminate that barrier? And I think that one thing that's really important to me is we should not, as a school system, dictate if a student can get a good education by what we provide or don't provide. Those things should be standard, right? If you want a good quality education, you should have access to technology, right? You should have access to meals that are going to nourish your mind and your body. You should have transportation options that, regardless of if you come from 5 miles away, or if you come from 10 or 15 miles away, that you can access to get you to that school where you can get that education. And that's something that is just fundamental to education. If you want to come and if you want to be a part of this, those are things that we believe are your right. And that is truly something, to me, that I would love to see all education systems be able to provide. Those are basic necessities to me. And we have the opportunity to do that at KIPP. And I'm making sure that we're doing it in a way, one, that makes our families feel that they have dignity and respect, right? That this is not a crutch or a handout or something like that, but it is a part of the KIPP way. And because of that, I think a lot more families have truly said to us, thank you. We appreciate the not the support, but the partnership in making sure that things are going to go well for us in all of these areas. And that, to me, I wouldn't want to have it any other way. So this is not a game changer. This is a right.
Yeah. I mean, there was actually I made a note of it because the last time we talked, you talked about the enemy is not like this school system versus that school system, but the enemy is, you said, our competitors are the gatekeepers of social mobility. And that really stuck with me. I thought that's really the essence. So I was wondering if you could elaborate on that and explain.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it. Listen, here's some things that we know are true, right? As long as there are going to be people on this earth and in San Antonio people are going to have children that need to be educated, right? And there's not going to be a shortage of students to educate. What's important around education is not if it's an alma mater or a place that's closest to us because of proximity of where we live. What is really important is about making sure that we select the right educational system for our students' needs, right? And if we look at that and we take all of that away, and everybody chooses what's right for their students' need, the things out there that are holding students back are not schools, but are actually those things, the access that we talk about to technology, being able to live in an environment that is not a food desert and has healthy nutritional options for you. Being able to have transportation to access some of the rich experiences that are needed to shape your young mind, right? That's who we're competing against. Why aren't those things more readily available for our students and our families to be able to access so that they can get out of their communities that they've lived in and see this whole world out there that is waiting for them? And I want to, my competitor is them. Let's knock down those gates. Let's knock down those barriers. Let's knock down those people that don't believe it's truly important to provide access to that stuff, because those are the people that are holding our kids back. And what they're doing is they're really holding our kids back from dreaming with their eyes open. And once they have that access and they see what's out there and they can dream with their eyes open, there's not going to be any way that their eyes are going to be shut again.
Yeah. No, that is just such an important message. I'm so glad. I feel like I tried to capture that in the blog post, the quotes that we talked about. And, I'm glad that you're sharing it here in this vision, because I feel like you're bringing, like new ideas about how we need to cooperate and how we need to team up, and what the real obstacles are, right? That it's not about whether basically every kid needs a great education. It doesn't matter so much which building they're in, or whether it's an appointed school board or an elected school board, right? Or like which bucket of tax money goes to fund that school, as long as the school is adequately funded. That it's these other things that are barriers to access, right? So like San Antonio Charter Moms, like we try to get the information out as equitably as possible, right? We have a bilingual website. We're trying to get the information out so that every family knows how to find the great schools in San Antonio, because there still aren't enough of them, and we're trying to grow the community of high quality schools, like what Choose to Succeed is doing, right? And City Education Partners, and and we just need to get leaders, get more people talking to each other and pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, all of us together are smarter than any one of us, right? So if we're working together on this thing, we can finally get education right for the masses. I mean, and that's what this is truly about. Education is a right. All of our kids need it. As parents, as adults, we want our kids to get the very best. And if we're working together to remove the barriers and take away some of the adult stigmas that we have around education, then truly kids are going to benefit.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I always close out these talks with the sort of the call to action, which encouraging people to apply. But before we do that, I want to give you a chance to kind of share what's on your mind. Anybody who's listening to this later, they might not realize that it's actually election day that we're recording this, and Alan and I have no idea what's going to happen.
Not at all.
And SA Charter Moms is a 501c3, and therefore we don't. We encourage people to vote. We don't tell them who to vote for. But 2020 has been an extraordinary year, and in so many ways, right? With the pandemic and with greater social consciousness, and so I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have thoughts for caring people who are worried about the future and want to make our community better? What kinds of things should we keep in mind?
Yeah, I think it's important. We've talked a lot about this, and I always start with control what you can control, which is yourselves and your families, right? And regardless of the outcome of the presidential election tomorrow and other elections, the sun is going to rise and the sun is going to set. People are still going to need a good education. People are going to still need, help and support navigating some of these gatekeepers of social mobilities. And that's what we can focus on. and that's in our locus of control. And so as we bring our full selves to the table and understand what is really in control, then that's what we work towards, and that's what we focus on. Everything else, is out of our control. So why pay attention to that? It's important. I mean, I do not want to shun the fact that education is important, and the leader of our country and the leader in some of these positions in San Antonio are going to have different policies and says about what happens in education. But what I can control is that the fact that every day your kid comes to my school, they're going to get a good education and they're going to be treated with dignity and respect. And that's what I think we should be taking away from this. And that, this is humanity. I mean, this is it right here. I mean, we're talking about it, we're living it. And so in order to live in a humane society, we all have to treat everybody with dignity and respect. And that's what I'm going to hold regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, no, that's essential. Control what we can control. Treat everyone with dignity and respect, and keep coming back to education. I went to law school. I had no idea I'd be working in education, but it's really becoming a mom, activated me and realizing how many kids were not getting a good education, and it became my mission to try to to work to help as many families. And it really is a tool of equity it's through programs like Kid Through College, right? That's really helping. It's creating this, immense numbers of college graduates who come from, marginalized backgrounds, but bring that set of experiences to halls of power where people like them have been blocked in the past. And that makes me excited for, what I hope is a transformative next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we got a comment. Let's see. Mitch is, he's one of the special education leaders, and he says, "You're an incredible regional superintendent."
Thank you.
I really appreciate Mitch. He's,
I do too. It's important to mention, I mean, that is another part when we talk about, the services that we provide to our students and the support service. And I don't want to leave this out. So students with disabilities, that is also incredibly important, right? So regardless of if it's a physical or emotional or learning or any kind of disability, what's important is that one, you're sending your student to school and they're able to, again, access the best education possible. But two, treating them as who they are and actually pushing them to the limit so that they can actually grow and be their best selves. And Mitch is over that in KIPP Texas, San Antonio, and for the state, and he does a great job. And so I'm really happy to be working with him, and I'm also very happy that we can serve any student very well.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, that's another myth that charter schools don't serve special education students. And that's absolutely false. That I know Mitch and his team have a huge commitment to serving every student, whether they're English language learners or, whatever their diagnosis is, dyslexia. I mean, my son is on the autism spectrum, and, he gets what he needs at a charter school because they have high expectations for him, and they're going to let him be himself, but they're going to hold him to a high standard. And it's really unlocking a brighter future for him than what he would otherwise have had. So, yeah, that's really important. Okay, so I want to be sure these links are in the blog post, but I want everyone to know that the right now is the open enrollment period for KIPP Texas, and this is the link, the kipptexas.org/enroll. Is the link to find the application, and then these are the open enrollment dates, right? So it started November 1st, it runs through February 19th, and then there's always more students applied than there are seats. So then there's a lottery, and we talk about that on the blog, how that works. And if anyone needs more information about how lotteries work and things like that, we have the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook, and the veterans like me. My son was waitlisted for 4 months, and I had a terrible attitude about it. I complained about it all the time. Fortunately, he did get an offer. Alan, do you have any advice for families who are thinking about applying or thinking about the process?
Yeah, I would say to you now, especially more so than ever, in any other time in the history of education, during a pandemic, during a major election, that it's important to choose an option that is going to set your student up for success. KIPP is that. Not only are we going to provide your student with all of the things that we talked about and the access to so many resources and a quality education, but also health and safety is so important at this time. And it's important to make a decision on the environment that they're going to be in, the social emotional support that they're going to be in. And so you can rest and you can feel comfortable knowing that you're going to work with people that are going to work with you and honor your wishes as a parent. And so I would say if KIPP sounds right for you, get more information about it. I'm accessible. I would love to talk to parents personally and individually about what their needs are and how we can service them. And then through social distancing measures, we can arrange for families or potential families to see what it is actually they're getting into. And so I don't want anybody to make an uninformed decision. So welcome them all to get in touch with me and get in touch with our organization here in San Antonio, and we will set them up to the very best of our ability.
Yeah, and there are some beautiful campuses, like the one on Ceballos, like it's down near. I think of it as near Ruby City, right? The museum. Yeah, but it's like it's there at the southwestern corner of downtown. That is a beautiful campus. And
campus, and there'll be another one coming shortly. So
I'm excited. I will as soon as the details are public, I will update the enrollment guide with that. So yeah, it's exciting.
Thank you so much, Inga, for what you do. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you being informative and also really providing information to people that have some very tough decisions ahead of them in a fair and responsible way. We really need to be giving you more credit because what you're doing for the parents and the community here in San Antonio is truly going to help them be successful. So thank you for what you do.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Alan. Like it's hard work, but I really enjoy what I do, and I'm really grateful for my team that helps keep everything organized, make everything look good.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in person again eventually. But in the meantime, thank you for joining me on Charter Moms Chats.
All right, until then, stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. Okay, take care.